Good morning. Welcome to the September 9th regularly scheduled meeting of the Fairport Municipal Commission. I'm Tim Keefe. I'm one of the commissioners, and if we could call the roll. Thanks, Holly.
Commissioner Jordan?
Present.
Commissioner Stuckey? Here. Commissioner Fritsch?
Here.
Commissioner Schlaba?
Here.
Chairperson Keefe?
Present. Thanks, Holly. We have one visitor in the audience this morning. Probably arm twisted to come to the meeting this morning.
A little beyond arm twisting.
Okay, Matt. We can do introductions, I guess,
Sure,
for
absolutely.
everybody.
So Chris Carr is joining us. Chris Carr is one of our crew chiefs. Chris came from Village of Bath Electric to come work with us. He also worked for Steuben Rural for a little bit of time. So, but yeah, he's been with us 8 years. So 8 plus, we'll call it almost 9 years.
Nice.
Huge help to us as he's one of those people that just never just cool, collected, and just keeps calm during the emergencies that we seem to always have. So we do safety meetings, that we here in Fairport, and then we get a chance once in a while to send people, within New York State and out of New York State. So we were lucky enough I got Chris Carr and Chris Fadicone to volunteer to go to Boston a few weeks ago for an IOTA show. We kind of talked about the last commission meeting, but I wanted them to come tell you firsthand, what they learned and what they saw. So just, that's part of it. They get to go spend a few days in Boston, but then they get to come to the commission meeting and tell you firsthand.
There you go. That's good. Any highlights you want to pass along, Chris?
Yeah, I took some notes. It was Tuesday, August 20th, and Wednesday, August 21st. We attended in Boston. They had all kinds of vendors. They had about 2 major speakers per day, plus a safety discussion on the second day. A lot of it had to do, they started out with a speaker that Matt actually has brought in. Billy Martin's a great speaker on safety, and he goes into real depth on the safety and even just the thinking and everything behind it, And they bring up, a lot of mental health awareness, that's a big deal in today's society, and just how people just, it can't be taboo. You gotta, if you're having troubles, say something, see something, say something was a big thing. Safety as far as safety briefs. We do safety meetings, tailboard sessions before every job, how to do them better. The safety doesn't end after that meeting, after that first morning discussion. It's very in-depth, what we can do better. A lot of statistics with accidents in our industry. The statistics have leveled off, and that's really troubling for a lot of these safety people. And they're really, a lot of companies are putting in a lot of time and effort and money into figuring out why this is happening, how it's happening, and what they can do. So that was, all the speakers touched on that, what can be done, a lot of communication. That's really what it comes, top to bottom communication. Again, see something, say something. You got crew chiefs, the leaders on the job, but you also have the first-year apprentices. You have the whole run of experience. It's not just that guy at the top of the pay scale that has the say in what goes on. It's everybody. Even that, everybody has a different way of looking at things. Everybody has a say, and that's just an attitude that it's what they suggest, and it's a great thing. Everybody sees things different. So that was a lot of what they touched on. Just make sure you speak up. Quanta Services is a huge contractor. They do not only electric, all kinds of construction across the country, and they actually were the hosts this year in Boston. They do a host utility every year, and they're putting a lot of time and effort into this whole safety models. You know, humans make mistakes. You know, that's one of their big things. You know, failure can occur safely. You know, it kind of sounds silly, but I mean, as long as if you're being safe, if you're communicating, you know, failures are going to happen. What we got to try to do is make that failure minor. Change, you know, change is inevitable. Change can't happen fast. So, you know, one of the things they challenged everybody with was, you know, what change can I make tomorrow? What change can anybody make tomorrow? Little change, and then continue on, you know. And that's, you know, that was a lot of what they had to say. Let's see, you know, they did some safety meeting, a round table basically, where some of the utilities discussed some of their accidents and what happened and how they dealt with it. And, it's good for everybody to hear. It was quite well attended, I guess. The number I heard was roughly 250 people from all over the United States, from LA to Texas to Florida and into Canada. And it's just safety it's everybody's responsibility. We all need to be safe. We all need to communicate and work towards those minimal accidents. So that was a lot of what I had written down. So
These are
I guess-
important, that, we send, 2 linemen to this, and we come back, and, the next day, when they got back, we in our morning meeting, just like we're talking right now, let's talk about everything that we heard, how can we, implement some of those things into our own daily thoughts. The mental health part of, line work is a huge thing right now. So it surely needs to be addressed. So it was good. Both of them came back, a little bit excited. They had, learned this, and they could then share it with the peers. So we rotate this between, employees each year type thing. But they came back with great notes, and we're very good at communicating that to their peers, which is so important. So,
Well, safety's paramount.
100%.
We all know that, but I think more so in our line of work, because I think sometimes there's no little accidents. Thanks, Rachel. So, thanks, Chris, that's great. Red Sox fan? Not really? I'm just asking.
Yeah,
In case you had a chance to take it
when
about.
you're in Boston, yes, you are a Red Sox fan, no matter where you're from.
There you go. Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Anything? No?
Thanks. Thanks for coming and sharing.
Yeah,
Thanks, Chris.
thanks.
Thank you.
So I guess if you don't want to be tortured for the rest of the meeting, feel free to, pull an Elvis. Thank you, Chris, very good. Thanks for coming in this morning. Okay, so unfinished business from last month, which I was not present for, is the approval of the minutes. So if the commission would like to take action on that.
Move to approve?
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
And I abstained. Okay. Let's move on to the new business portion of the agenda, and I guess we have an update on our dealings with Frontier.
We have some good news with Frontier for a change.
Really?
We were, after a long time and a lot of discussion, and a little bit of arm twisting by an attorney, we were able to get a settlement out of Frontier. They, as we all knew, they owed us quite a bit of money. We were able to get them to pay up for the past due balance, is about $260,000. So that kind of catches them up, and at least we're back to today. And part of that also was the discussion of double wood poles. We go change a pole. And there's definitely some miscommunication. What happens when we go change a pole, we use a federal database to notify the other utilities, and then typically what happens, the next one after we're done, Spectrum comes next. They usually have 90 days to do this. And when Spectrum's done, they go into that same database, they say, we're done, and now maybe it's Crown Castle or Fiber Tech or, some of these fiber company. And the last one to get notified is then Frontier. So it's sometimes when people see these double wood poles, they immediately blame Frontier. Well, sometimes it's in the status that maybe Fiber Tech hasn't done their work, and the others have. So sometimes it just takes time to get, because we have poles that have 5 or 6 or 7 different utilities on, and if each one of them has 90 days to react, sometimes they do take 80 to 90 days, and they can extend for an extra 30, so there's some time built into that. But we're able to get some money out of them, and we were able to kind of get a process of communication back open. And we'll let Lauren take over on the communication, because she's been working with Frontier on numbers and how many poles and things.
Morning.
Morning, Lauren.
So out of that meeting, we kind of set up a follow-up meeting with Frontier to talk about how many double wood poles are left in the system. So using engines, everybody gets an email notification when that company is next to go. So starting 5-6 years ago, Frontier, we had between 1,500 and 2,000, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but poles that needed to be removed in our system. So between then and now, we've gone down to 675 total, so we've made some good progress. 506 of those are Frontier is next to go, so the rest of the difference is Spectrum and First Light and Green Light and all those other attachers that just need to transfer so that Frontier can transfer and remove the pole. So right now we're doing bi-weekly updates with Frontier to get an idea of their progress and just kind of keep them moving so we can get these poles cleaned up in our system. That's pretty much it.
Matt, will that be a single check, or is that gonna be payment over time?
No, a single check. They paid us, got us a check right away. It was a good check. And I don't know if you did read, Frontier was just purchased by Verizon. There's a little history there. Not too long ago, 5-10 years ago, Frontier bought up a lot of the Verizon areas. Verizon used to be a rural phone carrier, so like the Adirondacks and there's ones down south. Frontier went and bought those, and it's a little bit of a shell game, I guess. I mean, now Verizon's come back and, bought Frontier's assets. So I'm glad we got the check from Frontier before this all happened, because that would just start all over again. But it won't be much change. Maybe the same people we deal with, and they'll just wear a different shirt, a name on their shirt, I guess I should say. So, but yeah, no, it's good news for change, and we've been working on this for an awful long time. But it did take an attorney to do some arm twisting, and it worked out well for us. Good. So.
Any further discussion by the commission on this topic, or we good? If we're good, then let's move on to item number 2, which I think we may have already covered.
Yes.
With Chris, so we can skip to 3. And I guess we have our annual conference coming up in about a month.
Correct. Yeah, the annual conference, we, have heard from everybody who's going. Commissioner Fritz, I got a couple of questions afterward. I'd like to see you. We'll talk for a couple minutes. But I have everyone from the commission who's going. We are going to open up the Wednesday night dinner. We're going to open up to all the employees to come down. It is nice when we do these local. We did this at Woodcliff that time. It gives the employees a chance to see, this statewide type organization, and the other municipalities that deal with this. So we should have a good showing. We've heard from quite a few of them. They would like to attend. But yeah, it should be an exciting week. Tuesday, Wednesday, we do the MUA side, and then Thursday we'll do the NIMPA side of the business.
Yeah.
But I appreciate all the commissioners getting back to us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I guess we have a corresponding accounting, finance, engineering workshop later in the fall, as usual in November, I think, Matt.
Correct. This one will be a little different. We are going to do a joint workshop again on the 6th and 7th. The 6th will be you could either attend the accounting, finance side, where they'll discuss, I mean, the agendas are coming out this week. You know, they're gonna go into detail on the power bills, they're gonna go into detail on the PPAC. And then the other side of that, there's a day of engineering, which will, touch base on the technical topics. Then the second day, the half day, is gonna be a joint exercise with New York Power Authority on a severe weather drill with all the communities in New York State, along with the Power Authority. Which should be good. So it'll be a day and a half in November. Usually well attended, especially these joint ones. We'll get between 130 and 180 people out of the different munis, so it'll be good. If you'd like to attend, I'll send the registration over this week, just so you get it on your calendar if you're interested. Thank you.
And now we're on to the EV chargers for the public's use.
So just wanted to kind of start a conversation. This dates back to, so we had multiple grants. We had NYSERDA grants, we had New York Power Authority grants that funded the electric car chargers that are in the village. Not the high-speed DC charger, it was a different project. I'm talking about the 27 level 2 chargers that are in the village, spread around, that people utilize on a daily basis. And the purpose of this was for the Power Authority and SRE to figure out what's a normal day look like on a charger. What type of people plug in? Are they plugging in with 10% battery? Are they plugging in with 50% battery? So they can kind of model this for how do you need to prepare the electric grid? So they've gathered all that data. That study's now over, and like everything else, when they build things, there's definitely end of life built into them. We're starting to see failures on the 27 chargers. We've had 2 already. We've taken out of service, and it's weekly occurrence. So we get error messages, and sometimes we're able to reset them, sometimes we're not. But we're gonna have to start a conversation that what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little cost benefit analysis that we should have ready for hopefully November. That we'll have to figure out, are we as the village, are we going to buy all new chargers and provide them? And then do we continue to, right now the Power Authority was picking up the costs for these things, but that stopped now. The village is starting to pay for these. So do we provide free chargers, or do we buy new chargers, and then we have, just like you go other places, there's an app, and then you pay per minute or per kilowatt hour, to charge your car. So with the cost benefit analysis that we'll put together, we'll start to show, do we need 27? Some of the use of the 27 is because right now it doesn't cost anything. We have residents right here in the village that come down, they charge on these, instead of charging at home. Well, once they have to pay for it, they'll most likely charge at home. Yeah. So there should be less use. We surely need some for people visiting and other things, but we'll try to come up with that number and give you a presentation so we can start to make decisions. I would hope, for January 1, that we could have some type of decision to go forward, because I'm sure between now and then, like I said, we've had 2 out of service. I'm sure we could have a few more by then.
So your analysis, Matt, it'll include like suggested pricing as well?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, we'll come up with, because what there's an annual cost to network these. That's got to get built into, right. And you got to come up with, we know how many minutes are used now, but the minutes that are used, part of that's because it doesn't cost anything. So that number is going to go down. So you got to try to, estimate that number that they're going to get used, so you obviously can recoup those costs. Sure. So yes, in our benefit analysis, we'll have cost of the equipment, costs that we think we would charge a person who would utilize it to kind of that break-even number.
Yeah. Matt, is there an added cost to set it up for payment as well? Because there's nothing there now.
Yeah, they're actually, in the machines we have right now, that payment app is in there. Okay. We just have it set to 0.
Yeah, okay.
So we could, between now and then, if we want, we could actually start to, turn them on, and, if we put a minimal cost in there, does that start to give us real numbers, what people are gonna use? So,
okay. Right, 'cause if we go to a full cost and really looking at how many we need, and 27 is a lot, I don't care what you do. And the market's really not there for it, but regardless, when we figure out how many need to go in all the lots and where it's at, Time you look at true depreciation costs, because again, these have a 4 or 5 year shelf life, whatever that's going to be. We need to depreciate that because the moment it expires or it's no longer serviced by the manufacturer, what have you, there has to be replacement that has to come into play there. And you can't just be saying every 5 years I'm going to come up with X to replace 20 of these. By the time you do that, your networking costs, your credit card fees, any of that other stuff, the kilowatt hour charge is probably going to be higher than what your kilowatt hour uses are now just by in your own home. So it may make more sense to do that at home. But again, this will show some of that and kind of give you an estimate of what we're looking at and what we're looking at doing. So we'll have chargers. I just don't know if we'll have 27 at the end.
Right.
Do we have any data on the actual use versus, do we know if those people have chargers in their homes at the moment?
We don't have any of that data, so that's the part that we kind of we're gonna have to estimate.
Yeah, okay.
Is it 50% that's gonna disappear once there's a charge? Is it more than that? We're gonna have to come up with some, that's what we're gonna start to dive into.
Yeah, okay.
Matt, do we have data on what percentage are Fairport Perrington residents versus visitors from outside of the area? Or would the app generate that more, would we have access to more data?
Kind of like medical records, it's interesting. They give us the VIN number of the car,
Okay,
and that's all we get. So unfortunately, we couldn't get into those metrics. So we don't know that.
Okay.
We do know. I mean, if you see the same VIN number charging 4 times a week, week after week, that's a resident. That coming down the street, plugging in for free instead of plugging in at home. But so we can kind of dive into that. And that's how we're gonna have to kind of figure that out. If we see a VIN number once, we know that the visitor. But unfortunately, there's no zip codes or names or anything else associated with it.
You see a lot of the same vehicles parking in our lots, where Potter, there are people that live there that plug in and walk home. You see a lot of the same cars utilizing the ones in the parking lots that are people that either live close by or may work in one of the buildings and then charge up during the day while they're here and then going away. And that's another big one too is it necessary for them to charge for all 8 hours and occupy that whole space? Or if you're paying, once you charge, say it's a 2-hour charge, that's all that's required, then they move on, then you open up that charger for the next user and stuff. But right now, because it doesn't cost anything and it's a decent parking spot that is pretty much guaranteed to be open all the time, just due to the lack of EVs, it's a nice benefit as well. So it'll be something that we'll learn as we see how that changes and how people react to the new situation. So.
Well, and that helps inform, the cost structure that you set up as well. If people are parking there after they're done, then you start to assess fees for that.
Yeah, and that is built into that. You can have, you can double the cost once it's done charging. It's all. They get a text message. Your car is now charged. I mean, that's wonders of the smartphones these days. So yes, at that point we can charge more that you're utilizing your premium parking space. So.
And that's key. I mean, if you got a car sitting there sitting there for 8 or 10 hours, and they only need 2 hours worth of charge, you've now limited maybe 2 or 3 other people from occupying that space potentially. So therefore, it reduces the amount of true chargers that you need, because then it just becomes a parking scenario for people that have an EV and they know they have a guaranteed parking spot, and that becomes their spot. So they plug in every day to justify the use of the spot when they only needed an hour trickle charge type thing. So we'll see.
Well, I know I recently got an EV, so I got the app and started looking around at different locations,
Yep.
not around here, but to see like what the fee structure is, and they are all over the place.
Correct.
So some are per minute or per hour, and some are per kilowatt hour, and some are different day or night, and some, have a big fee if you leave it for so long after it's done. And so you can build in all sorts of things just on that same app. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes. We'll get into it. I mean, we'll try to keep it simple in the beginning, obviously, but it just we'll see what it looks like, and we'll share all that data with you. So we hope to have something for November, so we can kind of make decisions for a January 1 rollout.
We don't want to make it too cost prohibitive where people don't use them. That's the whole point, is to have them, but it needs to at least cover the cost, right? We don't have to make a profit on or anything like that. By the time you start building in true depreciation costs, there's a cost to the infrastructure, networking costs, maintenance costs, anything else that's going to be included in this thing, plus the true energy themselves. you might be looking at you're not gonna be getting 4-cent power out of that, right? And so if you have the ability to throw a charger in your garage, it's probably gonna be a better option. So those times when that's not convenient, yeah, you have facilities, but I don't see people utilizing that over their home space. And I think that's the whole point of an EV, and not needing every gas station on every block to have 2 of them, because you have the ability to charge at home versus every time you travel, you gotta go find a charging station or a gas station or whatever that has charging capability.
Any other questions by the commissioners? And let's move on to, next item is a personnel update.
So we made one hire in the line department. So far, done a tremendous job. Actually, renting a house right off Jefferson, so lives local, which is I love, because I mean it's we get responders within minutes instead of a longer time period. He is a qualified first-class journeyman, so there's no training cost for us other than the normal training that the rest of them do. So that's a huge cost saving. And he contributes on day one. He can rubber sleeve, glove and sleeve today. It's not 4 years from now or anything else. Yeah, so it's Tate Ripard is the gentleman's name, and done a tremendous job so far. And he's working with the crew every day and getting along with everybody, and it's a good fit. So we are starting interviews also. The next hire we make most likely will be in engineering and technical. So we're going to get some assistance for where we are right now. We have a lot going on. Between everything is more IT-based, more computer-based, substations, testing equipment. So with that is we have one engineer right now, John O'Leary. He's doing a great job, but he does get overwhelmed and he gets spread thin. So we need to get him some help, and it's just what we're working on. We have started interviews, so hopefully at the next commission meeting I'll be able to share with you that we've made another hire, but that'll be on the technical engineering side, not so much in the line department. So.
Okay, great. For good on this topic, rate case update.
Hello. So we
Morning,
had a meeting with some of the people that our contractors that have been helping us through the rate case. We're preparing some of the final, or not necessarily final, but the latest things that the Public Service Commission has requested. We are continuing. One of the last items that they've been looking for is the PSC annual report. So I've been working on finalizing that. There's been a cost-benefit analysis related to the smart meters that they requested that they're looking into, some other small items that we're trying to follow up with them on. So we're trying to continue to go through it. They haven't asked a lot of IRs lately, so we're just trying to keep up on the requests.
Okay, thank you.
We're hoping with the lack of recent information requests that have not come, that we're seeing the end of the finish line maybe. They seem to have about a 6-month window. They like to get, we're quickly approaching that. So we're hoping that we have a meeting just before lunch today to continue in the cost-benefit analysis on the smart meters, which they're requiring. We actually have the rollout tomorrow for, we start the training and the software for it. So, but yeah, it's so far so good. Well, the PSC, they have done a tremendous job in helping us. They want to make sure that we have the money to operate correctly. So as much work as these are, it's not a bad process. It's been a very good learning process for staff. We have some staff that have not done these at all. Brian and I are the veterans in this. So these are ones that it's been good. But it's a big lift. It's been an awful lot of work for people. It means a lot of late nights and weekends, but they've done a great job, and hopefully we're nearing the finish line and we'll have good news to share soon.
Thanks, Matt. Certainly our thanks to everybody for the hard effort, and we'll take yours and Holly's optimism, and we'll go on that. All right, we'll add Brian to that list too. So, okay, next is the financials for the last 4 months prior to September, that we need to, accept those, receive and file and accept those.
Yes, so we have, because of the year-end progress, we have the May, June, and July final financial, well, they're tentative because we're waiting on audit final entries. We received the paperwork for the pension plan update, but the auditors haven't sent back the audit adjustments, so those will be likely the only changes to these reports. But that said, we had a profit at the end of May. We hadn't originally anticipated that, but it was due to a adjustment that they made to our depreciation on the audit that was actually related to the prior year, and also there was a adjustment to what we had unbilled revenue at the end of the fiscal year. It was a net profit for us. So those were the two big changes. Looking into June, we had a loss of about $250,000 that was fairly consistent with the prior year. If you look at the prior year, it's $170,000 of loss that we had in June. So that tends to not be the greatest month for us. But that said, we did have a significant reimbursement from the village in the month of June. So that might be a slightly higher loss than has been historic for that month of June, for this month of June. So hopefully we'll see improvements on that, especially as we get results of the rate case and we're able to make some changes. But those were the big things for June. In terms of July, we were more or less break even. I think we had about a $10,000-$15,000 loss in the month of July. That said, the cash flow, I think I mentioned this at the prior meeting, the cash flow for July looked substantially different than the profit for the month of July because we paid the electric bills on August 1st. So we had a large increase in the cash flow in July, and then subsequently we had a large decrease in the cash flow in August. So that's why there's that inconsistency in terms of the cash flow versus the profit. The month of July had higher kilowatt hour charges than historically, so it was a good month for us. We're hoping that with the delayed of the revenue tends to be delayed about a month in relation to billing, so we're hoping that the month of August is a better month for us. Hoping that clears out the loss that we had for the first 2 months of the year. That said, we also had that Frontier check come in the month of August, so regardless, we will likely see at least one-time profit for the month of August, despite the cash flow being substantially negative for the month of August.
I think Holly mentioned this and brought it up, but I want to be clear on some of this stuff. When we talk about losses, right, we're talking about a monthly hard date when you end the month and where that actually ends up based on your anticipated revenue and expense. A lot of these times, if you look at the reports, the kilowatt hour sales are there. It's just that what we spent in that month, what happened to be procured, where the bills are at, how bills fall, really impacts how these are viewed at the end of the year. You know, we're generally somewhat in par where we need to be. But I know it's a kind of a reoccurring thing. We sit in here and you talk about $250,000 losses. It's not like we just lost $250,000. There's kilowatt hour sales being done. It's just how things are being done, procured, where things fall. Cash basis is king. We look at that and how we do it. So just wanted to kind of clarify a little bit of that.
Yeah, to clarify, I think one of the big reasons why June is a month that has losses on an annual basis is probably likely to being the first month of the year of we're getting some of the startup costs for the year in place, and on top of it, it's not a particularly energy high month. So as we get into the winter months, or even in summer months when there's air conditioning, that will pick up some of the profit, and hopefully, again, we'll see that in August and future months.
Questions, discussions for Holly on the topic? I know in the packet, they're all labeled tentative. These are final now?
These are tentative because of the pension adjustment, because
Okay.
theoretically, there's three numbers that will change on all of them. The bird inflows and then the surplus on the year because of that pension adjustment.
Commissioners comfortable moving ahead with this? If so, we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, passed 5-0. And we're still, I guess, in the Holly Evans show. We're up for the year-end financials. Holly?
Yeah, so we're gonna do a more comprehensive update for the year-end financials in October. But just for the sake of updating you, we are trying to wait for the auditors to come back with those final audit adjustments. I'm gonna go through a few adjustments that we've found over the last few days to make sure that that PSC report is finalized, and we're hoping to have it submitted sometime this week. So that is where we stand with the PSC report, and with the audit entries, they'll be able to finalize once we've reviewed the draft. So sometime in the next month, we will have the audit finalized, the PSC report finalized, and have all these reports done.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is payment of vouchers.
So moved.
Have a motion? Have a second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, 5-0. And our next meeting is on Tuesday due to the Columbus Day holiday weekend, I believe. Yeah. So that'd be the 15th of October, which was pretty much normal, we just bump it by a day. And if that's good, then we're good. Any other topics from staff or the commissioners before we make a motion to adjourn?
I did have just one other question, Matt, on the EV chargers. When did the NYSERDA grants expire?
They were kind of timed, it's between the first of the year and now. I mean, they were set up at different times, so
Okay.
it was about called a 6-month window type thing. That,
Okay.
Some dropped out, some stages of it dropped out. The networking is still covered, I think, until end of this year in places. I mean, so it's
Okay.
bits and pieces.
Gotcha.
It wasn't just a hard stop on all of them.
Okay, thank you.
And you said that funding covered, or some of the funding covered networking equipment, did it cover power?
It covered a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was part of, the Power Authority and ESRI, wanting to gather the data. So that's why we kind of got picked, because we had the high saturation of EVs, hybrids, plug-ins. So, but they have been spending money across the state and other places now. I mean, it's, so just, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
What's that? Everybody good? We could entertain a motion to adjourn then?
Make that motion.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
we have a second, in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So, see you next month, everybody.
Great.
Thank you.